Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. From NFL News Now, Jerry Jones is back in the spotlight, and as always, when the owner of the Dallas Cowboys opens his mouth, the football world leans in to catch every word, every nuance, and every hint of what might be coming next for America's team. On Wednesday, Jones stepped in front of the media, a familiar stage where he has spent decades crafting the story of the Cowboys. And he made it clear that, despite missing the playoffs this past season, the organization's optimism is anything but dim. In fact, if you listen closely to what Jones is saying, there's a sense that the Cowboys are quietly preparing for something dramatic, something big, and perhaps even budget-busting, all in an effort to maximize what could be the prime window of quarterback Dak Prescott's career. Jones started by reflecting on the first season under head coach Brian Schottenheimer, a coach who many had quietly wondered about when he was hired. The Cowboys had ups and downs, sure, but Jones's assessment was glowing, pointing out that Schottenheimer's first year was a foundation-laying campaign and that the team's best football is yet to come under his guidance. He sees a coach who is growing, adapting, and learning how to get the most out of a roster that, while talented, still has holes to fill. There's a subtle confidence in Jones's words when he talks about Schottenheimer, one that signals a willingness to give the coaching staff room to maneuver, but also a readiness to intervene if the right opportunity presents itself. For Jones, Schottenheimer is a key piece of a broader puzzle, and the Cowboys' future, at least in his eyes, is closely tied to the quarterback-coach dynamic, and that brings us squarely to Dak Prescott. The linchpin of the Cowboys' hopes, Jones didn't hold back when assessing Prescott's current level of play, describing it as better than ever. A quarterback hitting his stride and finally reaching the kind of consistency the team had long been chasing. There's an almost reverent quality in Jones's description of Prescott, as if he's witnessing not just a great athlete, but a quarterback whose peak years could define the legacy of the franchise. Jones even went as far as to say that Prescott's play gives the organization an incentive to do something dramatic in the offseason, even if it means stretching the payroll. Even if it means taking financial risks to assemble a roster that could truly compete for a Super Bowl. Now, when Jones says bust the budget, he isn't just speaking figuratively. There's an implied readiness to make aggressive moves, whether through free agency, trades, or other creative avenues, all in service of keeping the Cowboys competitive while Prescott is at his best. In his own words, Jones explained, "We want to. While Dak is playing the game and got it down the way he's got it, we want to get out here and do better than what we did this year. So a combination of those things give us the incentive to, dare I say it, bust the budget to try to get something down now. Yes, we'll do some dramatic things." It's the kind of quote that instantly makes headlines, because Jerry Jones doesn't speak in half measures. And when he talks about being willing to go all in, it signals to fans, rivals, and even players that the Cowboys are serious about building something capable of winning it all, beyond the immediate tactical talk. Jones also shared a larger, almost personal ambition, one that elevates the conversation from the operational to the aspirational. He made it clear that his goal as the owner is nothing short of historic. He wants to retire as the NFL owner with the most Super Bowl wins. Right now, that honor belongs to Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots, who boasts 6 Lombardi trophies. But Jones is unabashed in admitting that he has work to do to reach that level. "My goal in life is to retire as the owner that won the most Super Bowls. That's my goal. To be retired in the NFL as the owner that won the most Super Bowls. We've got 3. I've got work to do," he said. There's a competitiveness in Jones that transcends even the business side of football. It's a personal drive, a desire to etch his name into the record books alongside the greatest NFL dynasties. And it frames the offseason not just as a series of transactions, but as a mission toward a legacy that few owners in the history of the league have ever pursued with such transparency. Yet even as Jones spoke about dramatic moves and the potential to stretch the budget, he was careful not to fully commit to a full-blown free agency spending spree. His words carried both a promise and a caution, a balancing act between ambition and pragmatism. "I don't want to sound by saying we're going to be active in free agency, then disappoint and say that we weren't," he explained. Instead, Jones framed the team's position in free agency as one of readiness and opportunity, emphasizing that if the right players become available, the Cowboys are in a better position than expected to act decisively. But if we haven't, opportunity and free agency, and if we have more than one opportunity, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we're in better shape today to play free agency than we thought we might be, and so we're going to use it, in essence. Jones left the door open for big moves, but only if they make sense in the context of building a roster that can win now, rather than just adding pieces for the sake of activity. The subtext in all of this is clear. The Cowboys are staring down what they hope is the peak of Dak Prescott's career, and Jones is not willing to let that window close without making an aggressive push. There's an urgency in his tone that reflects both the immediate need to win and a long-term vision that stretches beyond the next season, even beyond the next few seasons. He knows that windows for elite quarterbacks don't stay open forever, and he wants to make sure the Cowboys are in position to maximize every year that Prescott is at the top of his game. That's why the talk of budget-busting moves isn't just noise. It's a signal to the market, to other teams, and to fans that Dallas is prepared to do whatever it takes to win, within reason but without hesitation if an opportunity presents itself. Jones's statements also carry a psychological element, a way of positioning the Cowboys in the minds of rivals and players alike by publicly discussing both the desire to compete financially and the goal of surpassing Kraft in Super Bowl victories. He's sending a message that Dallas is a destination for players who want to win, a team that is ambitious, bold, and unafraid to make moves that other organizations might shy away from. It's a mix of bravado and strategy, and it's classic Jerry Jones, the kind of approach that has kept the Cowboys in the conversation as one of the league's most watched and most scrutinized franchises for decades. At the end of the day, what emerges from Jones's comments is a portrait of a team at a crossroads, one that has talent, one that has a quarterback hitting his prime, and one that has an owner willing to push the envelope in pursuit of both victory and legacy. The offseason ahead is shaping up to be pivotal, with decisions on free agency, trades, and budget allocation carrying implications not just for the upcoming season, but for the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. Fans and analysts alike will be watching closely, parsing every word and every hint for clues about what dramatic moves might be on the horizon. Jerry Jones has made it clear. The Cowboys are not content to tread water. They want to surge, to compete, and to cement a place in NFL history not just as a successful team, but as a dynasty led by a quarterback at his best and an owner with a vision as audacious as it is unmistakable. In summary, the message from Jones is layered and powerful. The Cowboys may have fallen short this past season, but there is no shortage of ambition, no shortage of strategic thinking, and certainly no shortage of vision from a man who has never been afraid to make headlines or push limits, with Brian Schottenheimer continuing to grow as a coach, Dak Prescott in the prime of his career, and Jerry Jones openly contemplating budget-busting moves to chase a historic legacy. The stage is set for an off-season that could redefine the Cowboys' trajectory. Every decision, every signing, and every draft pick will now be viewed through the lens of both urgency and opportunity, a lens that underscores a fundamental truth for the Dallas Cowboys. The pursuit of greatness is never optional, and the pursuit of history is always front and center. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. Breaking news is shaking the foundations of the NFL, and if you're a fan of either the Dallas Cowboys or the Green Bay Packers, you might want to sit down for this one, because what we're talking about could be one of the most shocking moves in recent years. Sources are buzzing with rumors that the Dallas Cowboys have made the jaw-dropping decision to cut Trevin Deesey and DIGGS, their standout cornerback, a player who has become synonymous with the defensive backbone of the franchise since being drafted in the second round back in 2020. For those who might not be intimately familiar with DIGGS' journey, he came out of the University of Alabama, one of the most storied college football programs in the country, bringing with him an aggressive style, a ball-hawking instinct, and a football IQ that many analysts predicted would make him a future star. Fast forward a few seasons into his professional career, and DIGGS has cemented himself not only as a reliable cornerback, but also as a player whose presence on the field shifts game plans for opposing offenses. And yet, despite all of this, the Cowboys are reportedly moving in a direction that nobody expected, releasing DIGGS and leaving fans in shock and disbelief. The immediate aftermath of this move has set off a wildfire of speculation across the league, and one name keeps surfacing amid whispers and leaks: the Green Bay Packers. That's right. According to multiple unconfirmed sources who have a habit of surfacing during the most dramatic Moments in NFL roster politics, the Packers are making a bold, aggressive push to swoop in and grab DIGGS essentially right under the noses of Dallas. The term stolen in broad daylight has been thrown around more than once in online forums and sports commentary, suggesting that the Packers see an opportunity to not just acquire a talented cornerback, but to deliver a psychological blow to a divisional rival who has prided itself on defensive dominance. And when you start connecting the dots, it becomes hard not to imagine just how strategic this move could be. The Packers, who have faced challenges in their secondary in recent seasons, are reportedly scrambling to find that perfect combination of skill, experience, and leadership in the defensive backfield, and DIGGS fits the profile perfectly. Rumors are suggesting that talks between Green Bay and DIGGS representatives have already begun, and that the player himself is seriously considering the move, recognizing that his talents would be both valued and prominently showcased in a system that has had trouble finding lockdown cornerbacks in recent years. Imagine the optics of this potential deal: a Cowboys player, once a cornerstone of their defensive scheme, suddenly wearing the green and gold, stepping onto Lambeau Field in front of one of the most loyal and passionate fan bases in the NFL. Social media is already abuzz with speculation about how Cowboys fans might react to seeing DIGGS in a rival uniform, and whether this could spark a trend of high-profile defections that change the dynamics of NFC rivalries. Analysts and insiders are pointing out that the Cowboys' decision to release DIGGS might be motivated by a mix of salary cap considerations, a desire to reshuffle defensive priorities, and possibly an internal assessment of team culture or locker room chemistry. But whatever the rationale, the timing is impeccable for the Packers to make their move, because the ripple effects of acquiring a player like DIGGS go beyond mere statistics. It's about signaling to the entire league that Green Bay is ready to compete at the highest level and isn't afraid to make bold, headline-grabbing acquisitions. DIGGS' playing style has always been a talking point among coaches and commentators, known for his anticipation, his ability to read quarterbacks' eyes, and his knack for forcing turnovers at crucial moments. He brings a unique skill set that could completely transform the Packers' defensive strategies. Imagine a scenario where DIGGS is paired with a secondary that has often struggled to contain explosive receivers, suddenly creating a matchup nightmare for opposing offenses. Rumors indicate that the Packers coaching staff is already envisioning a role for him that maximizes his versatility, allowing him to shadow top receivers while also providing support in zone cover age packages. If these whispers hold any weight, DIGGS could become not just a starter, but a centerpiece of a defensive overhaul that Green Bay fans have been dreaming about. The strategic implications are enormous, and football analysts are already debating whether this move could tilt the balance of power in the NFC, giving the Packers a psychological edge in upcoming matchups against teams like the Vikings, Bears, and yes, the Cowboys themselves. From a narrative standpoint, the human element is equally compelling. Trevon Diggs has been a player defined by perseverance, intelligence, and a certain flair on the field, leaving the team that drafted him, the team where he developed into a formidable professional, is no small emotional adjustment. Yet the rumors suggest that Diggs is excited by the prospect of a fresh start, one that allows him to showcase his abilities in new schemes and perhaps step into a leadership role that he has been quietly preparing for since entering the league. Insiders hint that the players' camp has been in direct contact with Green Bay representatives, discussing not just the financial package, but also the vision for his role, team culture, and potential impact on the organization's trajectory. These details, while unconfirmed, paint a picture of a high-stakes negotiation where every word, every hint, and every leak could shift public perception and fan expectations. The narrative practically writes itself. A star cornerback leaves a storied franchise, a rival seizes the opportunity, and the league watches in anticipation, knowing that the repercussions will be felt long after the initial announcement. Adding fuel to the fire, social media has exploded with speculation and analysis, with fans dissecting every potential scenario, from how the Cowboys will fill the void left by DIGGS to how the Packers might restructure their secondary to integrate him effectively. Some are predicting blockbuster trades. Others are imagining dramatic shifts in defensive playbooks. And nearly everyone agrees on one point: this could be one of the most talked about off-season stories in years. Commentators are noting that if DIGGS does end up in Green Bay, it would mark a significant power shift not just on the field, but in the way teams approach roster management and defensive scheming. The Cowboys, meanwhile, are reportedly exploring multiple options to compensate for the loss. But insiders admit that replacing a player of DIGGS' caliber is easier said than done. The timing, the optics, and the sheer audacity of the Packers' rumored interest all contribute to an unfolding story that feels almost cinematic in its tension and potential consequences. Of course, we have to treat all of this with a degree of skepticism. The NFL is notorious for leaking information, for stirring fan bases with rumors that may or may not materialize. But the consistency of the chatter around this particular scenario, combined with what we know about the strategic needs of both the Cowboys and the Packers, lends a certain credibility to the speculation. There's also the historical context to consider. The Packers have a tradition of making moves that are both unexpected and transformative, often catching the league off guard while simultaneously addressing glaring roster needs. If these rumors hold true, acquiring DIGGS would fit squarely within that pattern, suggesting a calculated risk that could yield enormous dividends. Meanwhile, Cowboys fans are left to grapple with a combination of frustration, disbelief, and curiosity, wondering not only why the team would release such a critical player, but also how the vacuum will be filled, and whether the loss could reverberate through the locker room in ways that affect team morale and cohesion as the rumor mill churns. One thing is clear, the NFL landscape could be on the verge of a seismic shift. Trevon Diggs, a player who has consistently proven his ability to impact games, might be on the move, potentially wearing green and gold instead of the iconic blue and silver. The Cowboys' bold decision to cut him, whether driven by financial calculations, strategic vision, or internal dynamics, has created an opening that a shrewd rival like the Packers is reportedly ready to exploit. The story is far from over, and every development, from official announcements to insider leaks, will be dissected, analyzed, and debated by fans, commentators, and analysts alike. In the world of professional football, where talent, timing, and tactical acumen collide, a single move can alter the trajectory of entire franchises, and the drama surrounding Diggs' future seems poised to become one of those defining moments. As the rumor unfolds, one can only watch with anticipation, knowing that when it comes to the NFL, the line between speculation and reality is often thinner than a defensive back's shadow across the field, and that the next chapter in this saga might just rewrite what we think we know about loyalty, strategy, and ambition in America's favorite sport. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates only here on NFL News Now.